Once, in a beautiful little town nestled between towering mountains and deep blue waters, there lived a geologist named Christian. He had spent years studying the land, watching over the mighty cliffs that stood above the fjord. But now it was time for a new chapter. His bags were packed, and he was ready to move with his wife and children to a new city. On his very last day at work, something strange happened. The sensors on the mountain, the ones that kept watch over the land, signaled that something was wrong. The water inside the rock had vanished, and deep inside, the earth had started to shift. Christian's heart filled with unease. He had studied these mountains long enough to know what this meant. Danger was coming. He rushed back to the geology center, leaving his children behind for just a little while. Alongside his colleagues, he climbed up to the mountain's crevice and saw it with his own eyes. The rock was moving. Slowly, silently, but dangerously. He told his old boss, Arvid, that they needed to warn the town. But Arvid hesitated. It was the busiest season, with tourists everywhere, and a false alarm would create chaos. So they waited. Christian finally went back to get his children, only to find they had already gone to the hotel where his wife, Aiden, was finishing her last days of work. His daughter, Julia, wanted one last night in their home, so he took her there, while his son, Sandra, stayed at the hotel, playing on his skateboard in the basement, lost in his music. But that night, the mountain gave its final warning. The ground trembled, and the sensors screamed. Something was happening. Christian, filled with dread, checked his notes, his research, everything he had studied. His worst fears were coming true. The mountain was collapsing. A landslide was coming, and when it hit the water, it would unleash a monstrous wave. A tsunami. Christian grabbed the phone and shouted for the alarms to be sounded. But it was too late. The mountain gave way, and with a mighty roar, it crashed into the fjord, sending a towering wave surging toward the town. The sirens wailed, echoing through the night, giving the people of Geiranger just 10 minutes, 10 precious minutes, to run for their lives. Christian and Julia were caught in traffic, trapped. He knew they had to climb. Run, he shouted, taking Julia's hand. Run for the hills. All around them, people screamed, cars were abandoned, and the wave loomed larger, closer, hungrier. Their neighbor, Anna, was trapped beneath a car. Christian tried to save her, but time was slipping away. He sent Julia ahead with Anna's husband and daughter, knowing he might not make it. And as the wave swallowed the town, he held on to Anna inside a van, bracing for the end. At the hotel, Aiden was trying to get everyone onto a bus, but Sandra was missing. She refused to leave without him. With the help of 2 kind tourists, she searched every floor. They found him just in time, but as they hurried back, the bus was already gone and the wave had arrived. With nowhere else to run, they rushed into the basement, into an old bomb shelter, just as the water crashed down upon them. One of the tourists was swept away, lost to the raging flood. The others held on, trapped in the dark as the water kept rising. When the wave finally receded, silence fell upon Geiranger. Christian awoke, cold and drenched, but alive. Anna, however, had not been so lucky. Heartbroken but determined, he set off to find his family. He climbed high into the hills, where Julia was safe with their neighbors. But his heart would not rest until he found Aiden and Sandra. Back in the basement, the water kept creeping higher. Aiden and Sandra tried to escape, but debris blocked the door. The air was running out, and one of the survivors, desperate and panicked, pushed Sandra under. Aiden did what any mother would. She fought to save her son. She held the man beneath the water until he was still, until Sandra was safe. Meanwhile, Christian searched the ruins of the town, calling out for his family. He found the evacuation bus, filled with lifeless passengers. He felt his heart break. Aiden had been there. She must be gone. Anguished, he slammed his fists against the pipes, letting his sorrow echo through the broken town. And then, he heard something. A faint sound. A rhythm. Someone was knocking back. Hope surged through him. He ran, diving into the water-filled basement where his wife and son were waiting. He tore through the wreckage, freeing them, but just as he pulled Sandra out, he ran out of air. The darkness closed in. Aiden wasn't ready to lose him. She grabbed Christian, dragging him to the surface, refusing to let go. She breathed for him, pressed against his chest, begging him to come back. At last, she stopped, believing she had lost him. But then, Sandra, small but strong, pressed his hands to his father's chest one last time. And Christian breathed. They had survived. As the sun rose over the wreckage, the family stood together, high in the mountains, looking down at what remained of their town. The streets were gone. The homes were lost. But they had each other. And in that moment, that was enough.